He didn't exist. That's the headline. It's a disappointing start, I know, but it's an early sign of how tricky history can be. England's, though more usually Britain's, but often Wales's and Cornwall's, sometimes Brittany's, most famous king turns out to be fictional. That's putting it politely. Gandalf is fictional, King Arthur is a lie. Some people will still say he might have existed, but the sort of person they say he might have been is so far removed from King Arthur in any of the forms we understand him that it feels like they're just saying he didn't exist in a different way. It's like they're saying, oh yeah, there was a real Superman, except he didn't have any actual superpowers and he dressed as a bat. For the avoidance of doubt and of a catastrophic collapse in listeners' confidence in the first chapter, let me make clear that I realise Batman also did not exist. Who do people say the real King Arthur might have been? Perhaps a Roman officer who served in Britain, or a Romano-British chieftain, or a Welsh king. Some senior figure who lived at any point from the 3rd to the 6th century, the 200s to the 500s. Someone like that, the idea goes, might have been the bit of real grit in the imagination oyster that turned into the Arthurian pearl. Personally, I don't think imagination oysters need real grit any more than metaphorical bonnets need real bees. What caused the Arthur Pearl was the persistent longing of humans of almost all eras and cultures to hark back to something better. It's a far more enduring psychological habit than a belief in progress. People found it much easier to believe in a rose-tinted view of the past than a utopian future. They still do, hence take back control and make America great again. For most of the period covered by this book, any claims or attempts by leaders to change or improve things are most persuasively labelled, to the people of the time, as restorations of some kind. Saying that something was totally new often played badly. The ultimate, most glorious restoration would be to the golden age of King Arthur. We get most of our sense of King Arthur from Geoffrey of Monmouth, who completed his Historia Regum Britanniae, History of the Kings of Britain, in 1138, and from Sir Thomas Malory, whose 15th century Le Mort d'Arthur, The Death of Arthur, was, in 1485, one of the first books to be printed in England. That gave the Arthur myth wider circulation. There's now been so much talk about King Arthur over the centuries that many people feel, like they do with ghosts, that there must be something in it. There is. It just happens to be deep-seated psychological need rather than historical reality. The story of Arthur reflects our longing as a species for the ancient, concealed and magical. Towards the end of Le Mort d'Arthur, Malory suggests the title is not the spoiler it seems. Yet some men say in many parts of England that King Arthur is not dead, but had gone by the will of our Lord Jesu into another place. And many men say that there is written upon his tomb this verse, Hic jacet Arturus, rex quondam, rexque futurus. Here lies Arthur, the once and future king. This is great stuff, and poses a haunting and exciting question. Will King Arthur return? It's clever because, as well as being haunting and exciting, it's a leading question of the when did you start taking cocaine kind. Whether you answer yes or no, you've accidentally accepted the premise that Arthur existed. The dates of those two books explain why Arthur, supposedly a 5th or 6th century ruler, looks like a medieval king in most of the surviving imagery. To us, King Arthur is an oldie-worldy figure. To the people of the Middle Ages, he was in modern dress. They imagined him like a contemporary king, but less shit. A paragon of justice, might, and legitimacy. He could be whomever and whatever they needed. What he was king of, in the most real sense, is Albion. And what is Albion? Its poetic and ancient connotations go beyond merely being the old name for Britain. It's pretty much whatever you want it to be. An English Britain, a Welsh Britain, a Scottish Britain, a Celtic Britain, an ancient British Britain, a nice version of here. So, while King Arthur didn't exist, the idea of him is lurking, guiltily or inspiringly, in the minds of many of the rulers who did.